everybody, this improv story is based on the idea: man finds a shiny ball, let the story commence. Last time in Storyville, yesterday, remember I said the guy went up to the counter and went like that? Listen, I've got nothing against it. You know, I'd be saying the same thing if it was like a man and a woman shagging in there. Right, remember I said that? Well, I've got an update. He went to another cinema and there was a guy and a woman shagging in the same sort of manner, and he ended up just having a wank. So he's a liar. Alright, that popped into my head this morning. So he's a liar. I mean, if he's got a preference, you know, that's his business. If he's got a preference, but he's a liar with it. You know, for his own personal satisfaction. Man finds a shiny ball, let the story commence. Craig was walking down the street one day minding his own business. And there was a shiny ball like that lying on the ground. Picture the metal ball for Phantasm. Metal balls. Phantasm. Metal ball. Picture something like that. Right. So he picked it up, looked about, went, wonder if somebody's going to come up to me and go, like, well, you then picking it up, that's mine, I dropped that, you know that's no yours. Does that look like something that somebody would just sort of throw away? And he picked it up and he's looking at it thinking that. And then a guy did come up to him and say that. Not the exact same words because that would be mental. But something along the lines of that. He just grabbed it off Craig and went, there it is. Thanks, mate. You weren't thinking of taking it away, were you? Aye. You look your type. Craig went, what's that supposed to mean? Guy went like, what's that supposed to be? What's that supposed to be? What's the... Shut up, okay, your knuckle sandwich. Guy walked away. Craig went, fuck that. And he looked at the ground, and by the way, that was lying in a wee bit of grass. In case you're thinking, well, what is this environment? Is this on the streets of pavement, concrete, tarmac and all the rest of it? Or what? Where was he walking? Kind of like a middle of nowhere sort of field, going for a walk, kind of near his house, sort of, you know, you can actually walk up to a bit, there's a fence, there's cows and things like that. That was lying in the grass. There's nobody about. No witnesses. So Craig reached in and picked up a bit of grass, just sort of didn't know what he did, just kind of chucked it towards the guy. The guy who had walked away, but he chucked it. But just the sort of sound of, you know, like it was a few meters away, right? Just the sound of Craig's foot kind of moving suddenly because of the movement made the guy go like that. And the guy turned around and saw just some grass floating, like just sort of drifting down. And the guy went up. What was that? Did you just try to throw a stone at me? Because that's what it looked like. It looked like Craig had thrown a stone and some grass had sort of stuck to the stone and he'd missed with the stone, but the grass had sort of like, you know, got of drifted down the way, if you know what I mean. The guy thought he was looking at the aftermath of what was an attempt to throw a stone at his head, right? Craig was just sort of like, didn't really know what to do, you know, he's quite not a violent person, just felt like lashing out without hurting. You know, just a kind of gesture of violence. And the guy walked back to Craig and went, "You're a right weakling, aren't you? You're a right weakling. You're no alpha. And that's why you'll never..." And just something, Craig went, "Oh, fuck all this," and grabbed the guy and kind of tripped him up. And the guy landed on, his neck landed on the barbed wire in the fence. And the guy went like, "Oh, oh!" And sort of, "Oh, you've really hurt me. You're in for it now." And Craig went, "Right, well, in for a penny, in for a pound." And sort of yanked the barbed wire at the bit where it wasn't spiky, it wasn't barbed, like that. And fortunately, it kind of came loose through one of the posts. So you had to, so that was it. So you then wrapped it around the guy's neck like that, pulled it fucking tight. I don't want to describe it. I don't like describing violence and stuff like that in gore. But the guy was choked and there was many barbs around the neck. And Craig watched him. I watched the fucking life go out his eyes. You hear about that in films, watching the life go out of somebody's eyes. Craig went like, I want to, if I'm going to do this, right, I'm going to make sure this is like the only time I ever do it, right? I'm not going to do what all these serial killers do, and the first time, you know, they go, "Oh, I want to do it again, but this time I want to savour it a bit more." I want to just, I'm not a bad person. I just want to go, right, if I'm going to do this, then I need to get the full enjoyment out of it so that I don't come back and want to do it again to somebody else who's less deserving than this cunt. So Craig just sort of sat down next to the guy and just looked in his eyes like that. I said, "Go to sleep, mate. Go to sleep. That's it. Go to sleep." Craig didn't really feel anything. He's like, "This is easy. I thought it would be a big deal. But it's easy." And that metal ball, Craig was like, "Right, so the metal ball, the fuck is that anyway?" And he picked it up and he said to the guy as the guy was slipping away, "What is this anyway?" And the guy died. And Craig looked at the guy, had a bag, and Craig looked in the bag, and there was a case, like a wee, looked like a wee kind of briefcase, but kind of smaller. And he went, "I think the answer's in here." And he went like that. He opened it up, and it was like a container that had nice sort of foam bits. There was other metal balls in there, and there was a wee foam sort of kind of cut out bit for that ball to go in. And it had some French on it, and it said the word like bull somewhere. He's like, "Oh, it's that. It's thingy. It's that thing. Bulls." The guy does, professional or petanque. What's the difference? Let's see. Do you use bulls in petanque, or it's the same thing? Petanque. Is that how you say it? Aye, that's exactly what it was. He should have known. That's exactly what it is there, look. That's what he should have known. It wasn't like that. It was a kind of rounder petanque set. Aye, it was kind of like that, but it was like that. In fact, that's the one. That's the one. That's the actual one. So Craig went, you know what? I'm going to get into this. And he went back to the guy, just sort of gave him one final sort of kick to the teeth. And then the guy was like, ah. So he's still conscious and just left him. Went away and he got right into bowls or petanque and became one of the best in the world. And then, as he was then reached the final of the best in the world. They went, right, you're up against the other one. And he's like, who could this be? Because they didn't know much about it. Didn't really sort of keep up to date with who he was going to be playing. You know how it was? Guy walked it. First thing Craig noticed about the guy was scars around the neck. And I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to leave the story there. But let me tell you this. I'm going to let you decide. You not actually decide and then I'll make it canon. But I'll leave it up to the reader and the listener to decide what happened next. But let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. Craig and that guy ended up becoming really good pals. I'm not going to tell you who won, who lost, but they actually ended up becoming really good pals. And that's a true story. Do you know how I know? Do you remember me looking at the picture of the case there? That's how. That's how I know.